Marriage is often considered a union built on love, trust, and mutual respect. However, over the course of many years, relationships can change, and sometimes not for the better. In the case of Anna, a 63-year-old woman who has been married to her husband, John, for over 40 years, this change has come slowly but surely. Once a loving partnership, their marriage has transformed into one fraught with tension, resentment, and a deep sense of frustration. Anna's story is not unique. It reflects the emotional complexities that many people face in long-term marriages, particularly as they enter the later years of their lives. This story is a deep dive into the factors that contribute to these feelings and the profound shifts that can occur in a relationship over time. The beginning of change. Anna's growing resentment. Anna's marriage to John began with the same kind of love and hope that many couples experience. When they were younger, they shared dreams, built a family, and navigated life together. They had their differences, but their connection seemed unbreakable. However, when Anna turned 60, something changed. At first, it was subtle, small irritations that she could overlook in the grand scheme of their life together. But as time passed, these irritations grew into something much more significant, and the once strong bond between Anna and John began to unravel. Anna began to feel a growing sense of resentment toward her husband, a resentment that she couldn't shake. The habits that once seemed endearing or tolerable now felt like insurmountable obstacles. She found herself increasingly irritated by the sight of John, and the mere thought of him often filled her with frustration. The love she once felt for him seemed to have faded, replaced by anger and bitterness. It wasn't just about small annoyances anymore. It was about how she felt trapped in a life that no longer brought her joy or fulfillment. Her mental and emotional health started to deteriorate as well. She found herself in a constant state of agitation, which led to bouts of depression. She relied more heavily on medication to cope with the stress, and yet the more she tried to escape her feelings, the more entrenched they became. Anna began to wonder if there was any way out. She even considered divorce but found herself too scared to take action. Divorce at her age seemed like a social taboo, something that would make her the object of gossip and ridicule. She worried about the shame it might bring her children, all of whom had successful careers in management. The thought of embarrassing them weighed heavily on her, leaving her to continue living in a marriage that was no longer fulfilling. John's stubbornness and selfishness. The breaking point. John, on the other hand, remained largely unaware of Anna's growing frustration. He had always been a rough, stubborn man, set in his ways. In their younger years, his careless habits could be overlooked because of the love they shared. But now, as the years passed, those same habits became unbearable for Anna. One of the most significant sources of her resentment was John's reluctance to contribute to the household in any meaningful way. From their youth to the present, John had always left the financial management to Anna. He handed over his paycheck to her every week and never took much interest in their finances. He wasn't particularly helpful around the house either, leaving Anna to handle the chores. This might have been bearable when they were both working and managing a household together, but as they grew older, Anna felt the weight of this imbalance more heavily. Several years ago, when their children had children of their own, Anna stepped in to care for the grandchildren. She understood the pressures her children were facing, and, out of love and sympathy, took it upon herself to help raise the little ones. This was a significant responsibility, one that she didn't take lightly, but she believed it was her duty to help her family. John, however, refused to lift a finger to assist. He continued with his daily routine of lounging on the sofa, browsing his phone, and refusing to help with any of the household chores. This only added to Anna's frustration. She hoped that he would step up and help, but he remained selfish and indifferent. When Anna tried to confront him about his lack of support, he brushed her off, telling her that she had brought the burden upon herself by choosing to care for the grandchildren. He never acknowledged the toll it was taking on her, and in fact, he blamed her for the very situation she was in. Anna's frustration with John's behavior grew to the point where she wanted to throw him out of the house. She was exhausted, emotionally drained, and angry that he had no regard for her well-being. But she knew that was easier said than done. Their decades-long marriage, the financial complications, and the societal pressures made it difficult for Anna to make any significant change. So she continued to live with him, enduring the situation as best as she could. The final straw: John's health and Anna's burden. When their grandchildren were old enough to attend school, Anna finally had a reprieve. She looked forward to spending some time for herself, to travel, to relax, and to reward herself for all the years she had spent taking care of her family. But just as she was about to take her first real break, John's health took a serious turn for the worse. He was hospitalized for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, a condition caused by years of heavy smoking. John had been a smoker for as long as Anna could remember, consuming at least a pack a day. He refused to quit, even though Anna had begged him to do so for years. He even preferred to buy cheap, low-quality cigarettes, dismissing any concerns Anna had about the quality of the tobacco he was smoking. John's stubbornness regarding his health had always been a source of tension between them. He was never willing to listen to Anna's advice, and instead, he prioritized his own desires over his well-being. When he was hospitalized and diagnosed with COPD, Anna hoped that this would finally be the wake-up call he needed. However, John made promises to the doctor to quit smoking, only to break them as soon as he left the hospital. He would sneak cigarettes, even if Anna tried to hide them, and he would continue to smoke despite the damage it was doing to his body. His lack of concern for his health was a constant source of stress for Anna, who was forced to breathe in secondhand smoke and watch her husband deteriorate before her eyes. As his health continued to decline, so did his personal hygiene. John's breath became foul from years of smoking, and Anna could no longer tolerate the stench. His appearance also began to decline. His teeth became yellow, his clothes disheveled, and he showed no interest in taking care of himself. Anna found herself disgusted by him, not just physically but emotionally as well. She felt as though she was living with a man who had no respect for her, for himself, or for their marriage. The final toll on Anna's well-being. As John's health worsened, Anna's frustration with him only deepened. He had always been lazy about taking care of himself, but now it seemed as though he was completely ignoring his responsibilities. He refused to sleep in the living room, despite his loud snoring keeping Anna up at night. When she tried to go to the living room to escape the noise, he would pull her back into the bedroom, arguing that it wasn't fair for him to sleep alone. This was just another example of his selfishness, another way he made Anna's life more difficult without considering her needs. The lack of rest was taking a toll on Anna's health. She began to experience physical discomfort and a sense of exhaustion that seemed never-ending. She could no longer enjoy her days, as she was perpetually tired and emotionally drained. Every day felt like a battle, and every interaction with John left her feeling more resentful. His refusal to change, his inability to see how his actions affected her, and his complete disregard for her feelings made Anna feel trapped. She longed for an escape, but couldn't find a way out. Anna's situation reflects a common reality in many long-term marriages, where the initial love and passion that once existed fade over time due to unmet needs, unresolved conflicts, and emotional neglect. It is a painful journey, one that many women experience but few are willing to discuss openly. In Anna's case, her story is one of growing frustration, emotional burden, and a sense of isolation within her own marriage. It is a story of love lost and the harsh reality of living with a partner who refuses to change, even as the years take their toll on both individuals. The burden of unshared responsibilities. One of the most common reasons why women, particularly in later stages of marriage, become weary of their spouses is the issue of unshared family responsibilities. In the early years of marriage, many women willingly take on the majority of household tasks, child-rearing duties, and emotional labor, believing that their efforts will be reciprocated. Early on, love and the desire to nurture the family unit often drive them to endure, forgive, and overlook their spouse's faults. However, as time progresses and the responsibilities of life evolve, many women begin to feel the weight of years of unreciprocated labor. This feeling of inequity becomes even more pronounced as health begins to decline with age. What was once a manageable workload turns into an exhausting burden, especially when the woman finds herself caring for grandchildren while still trying to manage the household, her health, and emotional needs. In contrast, some husbands, even as they grow older, may continue to live carefree, focusing on personal hobbies or interests rather than the well-being of the family. This discrepancy in how responsibilities are shared can cause significant resentment, leaving the wife feeling overburdened and neglected. The rise of self-awareness in later years. As women grow older, they often become more attuned to their own needs and desires, especially when the constant demands of work and child-rearing have subsided. When children leave the home and responsibilities shift, women find themselves with more time for introspection and reflection. This newfound space can lead to a greater understanding of their own worth and a desire to reclaim the joy and freedom they might have sacrificed during the earlier years of marriage. It's not uncommon for older women to begin recognizing the flaws in their husbands that were previously overlooked. In the past, these flaws may have been tolerated or ignored due to the pressures of raising children, maintaining a home, or simply out of love and devotion. However, as time goes on and the emotional and physical demands of life decrease, these once ignored issues can feel more significant. This realization is not necessarily a sign that love is waning, but rather a sign of maturity, an acknowledgement that as life evolves, so too should the relationship. The fear and consequences of divorce. For women like Anna, who have spent decades in a marriage, the idea of divorce is often fraught with fear and uncertainty. Divorce in later years is rarely a simple decision, as it brings with it a host of challenges. The prospect of loneliness is a significant concern, particularly when a person has spent much of their life with a single partner. In addition to the emotional strain, there are also concerns about social reputation, particularly within communities that place a high value on family stability. Moreover, the impact on children can also be a major factor in this decision. Many women fear that divorce will negatively affect their children or that it will tarnish the family reputation. The fear of isolation, both socially and emotionally, can keep some women trapped in unhappy marriages, despite their growing dissatisfaction. However, while these fears are valid, it's important to consider whether divorce is truly the answer. Often, the issues within the marriage stem from deeper emotional dissatisfaction or a loss of connection rather than fundamental incompatibility. In many cases, open communication and a willingness to adjust attitudes can help resolve underlying issues. Before deciding to end a marriage, it is crucial to ask whether divorce would address the root causes of discontent or simply be an escape from the pain of dealing with unresolved emotions. The importance of communication. Communication is key to any relationship, but it becomes especially important in later years when partners may feel disconnected. After years of living together, many couples fall into routines where they no longer engage in meaningful conversations. This can lead to a situation where both individuals are physically present but emotionally absent. While one partner may feel neglected, the other may be unaware of the growing dissatisfaction. The first step in restoring balance in the marriage is often a heartfelt conversation. It's essential for both partners to express their feelings openly, without fear of judgment or reprisal. This can be a difficult conversation to have, especially if years of resentment have built up. However, if both partners are willing to listen, share their frustrations, and truly hear one another, it is possible to re-establish the emotional connection that may have been lost over the years. Accepting change and growing together. As couples age, it's important to recognize that both partners will change over time, both physically and emotionally. Accepting these changes is vital to maintaining a happy and healthy marriage. Aging often brings with it new challenges, such as physical health issues, emotional insecurities, and shifting priorities. However, it also presents opportunities for growth. Rather than clinging to the expectations and roles of younger years, couples can learn to embrace the new dynamics of their relationship. Understanding that each partner has their own struggles and insecurities can create an environment of empathy and support. One of the most significant changes in later years is often the shift in the family dynamic. When children leave the nest, the primary focus of the couple's relationship can shift back onto each other. This can be a moment of rediscovery, an opportunity to rekindle the romance and connection that may have been overshadowed by the responsibilities of raising children. It's also a time to explore new hobbies, travel, and spend quality time together in ways that may not have been possible when they were younger, reigniting the spark. Sometimes, the key to preserving family happiness lies in rediscovering the joy that initially brought the couple together. Many couples, after spending years together, forget that relationships require constant effort. It's easy to become complacent and take each other for granted. Yet, even in later years, it's important to remember that love is not a static emotion. It requires nurturing and care. One way to reignite the spark in a long-term marriage is by engaging in new activities together. This could involve traveling to new places, learning a new skill, or simply spending more time together without the distractions of daily life. Couples may also find it helpful to revisit old traditions or routines that they enjoyed during their younger years. These shared experiences can foster a sense of closeness and affection, reinforcing the bond between partners. The imperfection of marriage. It's essential to recognize that no relationship is perfect. Every marriage will go through its share of challenges, and it's unrealistic to expect constant harmony. Disagreements, frustrations, and even resentment are natural parts of any long-term relationship. The key is not to avoid conflicts, but to learn how to resolve them in a healthy and constructive manner. Growing to resent one's spouse is common in long-term marriages, but it doesn't necessarily signal the end of the relationship. Instead of resorting to drastic measures like divorce, couples should explore other options to address the issues they are facing. In some cases, the solution may be as simple as learning to communicate more effectively, expressing feelings honestly, or seeking professional help if needed. The story of Anne and John. Rediscovering love. One of the most powerful examples of overcoming the challenges of a long-term marriage is the story of Anne and John. After being married for over 40 years, they had weathered many ups and downs, including raising children, career changes, and personal health challenges. In the beginning, their marriage had been full of passion and shared dreams. John, an ambitious engineer, worked tirelessly to provide for his family, while Anne, an aspiring teacher, supported him by caring for their home and children. As the years passed, however, their relationship began to change. Their children grew up and moved out, and their once bustling home became quiet. John, who had retired, found solace in his gardening, spending long hours tending to his plants. Meanwhile, Anne began to feel a growing sense of loneliness and neglect. Despite her attempts to engage John in meaningful conversations and share her concerns, he seemed oblivious to her emotional needs. His passion for gardening became a barrier rather than a bridge between them. Anne, feeling increasingly isolated, began to explore new interests. She discovered a local art club and began painting as a way to express her emotions. While John remained absorbed in his garden, Anne found joy and fulfillment in her new hobby. Over time, however, the emotional distance between them continued to grow. It wasn't until Anne had a candid conversation with John that their relationship began to heal. In that conversation, Anne shared her feelings of abandonment and isolation. John, initially unaware of how deeply his actions had hurt her, listened and expressed regret. He realized that he had been too focused on his own interests and had failed to recognize Anne's emotional needs. From that moment on, John made a concerted effort to change. He began to spend more time with Anne, listening to her and participating in activities she enjoyed. The couple even started attending painting classes together, reconnecting through shared experiences. Anne and John's story is a testament to the power of communication and mutual effort in marriage. Despite facing many years of emotional distance, they were able to rediscover their love and connection. Their journey shows that with patience, understanding, and a willingness to change, even the most challenging marriages can be restored. The power of adaptation. As couples age, the dynamics of their relationship will inevitably change. The pressures of raising children, building careers, and managing a household may fade, but new challenges will emerge. Recognizing these changes and adapting to them is crucial for preserving happiness and connection in a long-term marriage. Communication, understanding, and a willingness to grow together can help couples navigate the difficulties of aging and rekindle the love that initially brought them together. Through mutual effort, it is possible to not only survive the challenges of marriage but to thrive and find joy in the later years of life.